Greetings, Patrick here. Have Cheeto will view 8 questions with, and welcome to the show. It's right. We are up live here on a Friday. Normally we don't do Fridays, but this is a special edition. We will be talking to author and music buff Allen Iverson. He'll be here and to talk all sorts of things. I've actually known Alan for quite a few years, and I found him to be a very engaging, a very generous, very kind person. I wish I have gotten to know him. I'm looking forward to getting to know him better, as you will find out in this interview. I have a lot of questions for him. He's quite a character. He's a good man and has a good heart, and is quite talented as well. He's written some books. He's done some poetry. Now he's writing screenplays. So he is in the hotbed of Louisiana. As you know, I've been amazed by a lot of the talent that we've gotten from there. Hey, Drew. Hey, man. How are you? Glad you guys are here on a Friday. It is a cold and wet Michigan Friday. It's been raining all day long. So miserable day here, but a good day here on the show. Hey, Anthony, how are you, sir? Anthony's here. Real quick, because our guest is actually sitting in the basement, and I'm gonna go get him because I don't like people waiting down there. Hey, North, how are you? Wow, you guys all came out early tonight. I'm like that. Thank you so much. This is awesome. So let me go ahead and let you know. So May is coming up. May is coming up. I was initially going to take the month off. I was going to take it off, but I thought about it, and then I decided that I'm going to go ahead and pack it full of fun. So we have, and we are still working on it. We're still looking to finish out our dates, but we do have the first week up and booked, and I want to share that with you. I'll share that with you, and then we'll go get our guest. All right. So this is the last 8 questions with of the month, but we still have 2 shows in April. On April 30th, we are doing a dual show, of course. It's the last Sunday of the month, and the ISC Midnight Show is on. And we will be talking about the film Swallow, that was written and directed by Carl Mirabella Davis and star the lovely Haley Bennett, who I still say that she should have been at least gotten an Oscar nomination for this role, and at least that. I feel perhaps she should have even won, but that's just me. But she should have definitely been nominated. Swallow should have been considered Best Picture too. It's a really, really good film. A really good film. So me and Ben from Cadaver Club and Mary Wilson will be here, and we're going to be talking about Swallow on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 o'clock Pacific. Hey, there she is. Our night is in the house. Wow, you guys all came out early today. You know what? Let me just go get our guest. Since you guys are all here, I'll do that. Hey, Star-Lord. All right, so let's go get our guest, writer Allen Alberson. And trust me, kids, you don't want to leave this. You don't want to miss this one. I'm expecting one of the guests to pop up in the chat. I hope he makes it. He knows who it is. All right, here we go.
Hi.
Ta-da! Hey, Alan, how are you?
I am doing very well. Pardon my deep.
Good. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Oh, pardon your accent.
Yes.
Oh, well. You know what? You are based in Louisiana.
Actually, Southern Alabama, about 2 hours from Louisiana. I love Louisiana, though I'm there all the time. But
So
yeah.
Oh,
That's
okay. I always thought you were New Orleans based.
very
Oh,
close. I talk about it all the time. I go there quite often. Uh, I actually grew up in Mississippi, and New Orleans was like the first place I ever wanted to visit because of Anne Rice. And now I'm right at Mobile, Alabama. I'm a small community outside of Mobile. So you were close, very close.
I want to say hi to everybody that's coming in the chat today. I see Star Lord is here. Echo just walked in. Like I said, Mary Wilson, my fellow knight from the ISC show. Star Lord Anthony's here. Um, yeah, normally we start at 8 o'clock straight up, but I don't like making people wait in the basement. I go up at 7:45 to get everybody to go in, but they're already here and they're already going. So I said, well, let's just bring them up now. Let's get it cracking.
I'm
Um,
usually late, so I'm just trying to start a better habit.
uh, I was entertaining myself while I was finishing up some stuff. I was listening to some episodes of a different podcast and being thoroughly entertained, which we'll be talking about in a few minutes here. Um, uh, where were you born and raised at, Alan?
I was born in a small town called Ashland, Mississippi. It's I used to joke that you could find Ashland on the map, but you couldn't find any roads leading to it. It's that small. And
Wow.
I spent most of my life there till about 13 years ago. I relocated here for a job, and I don't regret that, except I regret that I'm almost always working. Uh, we're actually shorthanded now, and that's why my plans. This was supposed to be like a week and a half off, and we're so short at work, I had to like cut that back. Uh,
Mm.
and we have no idea. We're hoping we'll have a new employee by August. That's how bad it is right now.
Yeah, is it okay to ask you where you don't need to go in the specifics, but is it okay to ask you what do you do?
Yeah. I work in a hospital, and I won't give the name of it simply because one person we were talking about yesterday, I just prefer he not to know where I work, just in case he
Or
wants to. Yeah.
yeah, of course. Um, yeah.
But I am I do CAT scans and X-rays.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay. So that's that you're busy.
we are very busy, very
Mm.
busy.
No, a lot of sheesh. Yeah, I think this is the first person. I think you're the first person I talked to after the pandemic. I've talked to a couple of nurses before, but I
Yeah,
think you're the first tech I've talked to. Um, is it busy because people are still catching up from work that they needed during the pandemic, and now just now getting it, or it's just everyday wear and tear?
I think we're having a lot of problems because of the temperature changes down here. Which, I'm right on the Gulf Coast. It's when it gets summer, it's like 100 to let's say 90 to 100, 110. And right now we're having cool weather, rain, then hot weather. We're having a lot of flu. We still have some COVID. It's nothing like it was during the pandemic, luckily. But and our area is growing so fast that the hospital is undersized. And there are basically two hospitals in the close vicinity of me, and one is just now, they're starting construction to upgrade to a 500 bed room. And this was at one time kind of a country hospital. And we're about a 250 bed facility, and we are just getting slammed. When I left work Wednesday morning, there was not a bed to be had anywhere in the hospital, and we had about half of the ER taken up as hospital beds, and people waiting hours to get in and get seen. So it's
Are
horrible.
they? I mean, people are coming. Wow, wow, that's just crazy.
Yeah, it's
Underreported, I guess. So people are sick with coming in with the flu. Is it just the flu then, right? People are just coming in from flu.
we're having a lot of the flu. We still get a little bit of COVID. It's not like during the worst of the pandemic, but we still get a couple of cases of COVID every week. And then it's your general stuff of people with belly aches, people who fall down, people who get hit by cars, people who hit other people with cars. Uh, that's just kind of the the general everyday thing. But since our population is growing so much, and we're right on the side of an interstate, right on the side of a big city, we're situated between Pensacola and Mobile, so we're basically in between two big cities, and we're just being overwhelmed.
I
And
sure yeah. How long have you worked as a tech? What got you into doing that, Alan?
I actually, before I did this, I was working in a factory because it was kind of a come out of school. I don't know what I want to do, except in all honesty, I wanted to write back then. I just had no idea how to write. So I went to school, got a journalism degree, found out quickly I didn't really want to be a journalist back then. And like I said, tiny, tiny town. I fell into a factory and stayed there way too long. And then finally, the factory started shutting down, closing down. I got laid off, and they offered me the chance to go back to school and do anything I wanted. And for some reason, I decided to go into healthcare.
Well,
And
that's a good.
it was honestly, you work in a factory and you make money for the person who owns a factory, and you feel like you're doing no good for the universe. And
Right.
I did want to do something where I was helping other people. So healthcare, you do get that feeling. You get a lot of feelings, again, that you're just working for a corporate big shot, but you are hands on every night helping someone who is in pain, who is struggling, so there is a little bit of a better feeling than working in a factory punching out shoe soles, which is what I literally did. I made shoe soles.
Uh, it doesn't really surprise me when I found out that you were working at a hospital, because you are pretty much you really do care a lot about people. That's what really comes across. It's always come across is that you care about people quite a bit. Um, you've had that, and sometimes you get in trouble for that. But I love that too.
Most
Uh,
of my trouble comes from me trying to help someone.
yeah.
Honestly, like if I could just live in my house and turn my television off, I would be a happier person. I think because I would never know anything was going on. But yeah, it's hard. We live in a hard world, and I've gotten lucky a bunch of times, and there's a lot of people who are a lot less lucky than me.
Uh, so where do you think you got your sense of that? Who instilled that with you? To help people to, if you see someone being attacked or bullied, or if you see someone who is doing something wrong, where did you get that innate sense of justice?
I
Uh,
think
you
mostly from my mother and some extent from my father. And I had a rougher relationship with my father. I don't want to go into politics and racial relations and everything, but my father was a good guy. He just he was the son of his father, and we all take the good and bad from our parents. My father was a cop, and he did it because he wanted to help people. He didn't always do the greatest job at it, I don't think, but he really got into it wanting to help people. And my mother was just the kindest soul you would ever meet, and she was a Mississippi Southern woman who I think she had a third grade degree before she dropped out and had to work on the farm
know,
until she got married. And my father did have his high school degree and then went straight off to war and combat and did not enjoy that. So he came home to be a farmer. And I never wanted to be a farmer. I that was the one thing. It's like, nope, nope, nope. I'll go buy a can of corn before I'll grow a stalk of corn. And I knew early on it was not for me. My sister loves to farm. Me, it's like, nope, I want to do something else.
hmm. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have two sisters. My oldest sister is 14 years older than me. My youngest sister is 7 years younger than me.
Wow, that's
And
quite a gap. It's quite a gap.
that's my entire family line, all the way back to the Civil War, at least. That's as far as we can trace it with any degree of certainty, was like that. You would have a father who had maybe 10 kids, and the youngest one would be like 2 years old in the census, and the oldest one would be 20 something years old. My grandmother was the youngest wife of my grandfather, and my father literally went to school and grew up with his nephews from his older brother's kids because there was such a huge gap in their family.
Um, well, it tells you that they had a loving marriage.
They did. There was a lot of love in it. Um, you follow it back, you really go back in time really, really quickly because of those huge gaps. So, because my grandfather was around in the 40s, and it was like, I think my great grandfather, I believe, if it hadn't, I might have missed a great somewhere, fought and died in the Civil War, and he joined the Confederate Army. He was in his 40s, and his son, who was 18, and they both joined the Confederate Army at the same time. Um, my ancestor didn't live through the experience, so he died about 3 weeks after joining the Army.
Oh, wow.
Yep, in a Union prison camp in Kentucky.
Um, that's interesting. You brought up the Civil War because you're in the South. Um,
Yeah,
let me ask you a couple of questions about that because
go ahead.
I'm a historian and I like to get a chance to talk to somebody because you mentioned earlier about not getting into the politics, but that is part of who you are, though. I mean,
Yeah,
you are very outspoken about your feelings and stances, and it's one of the things I really respect about you quite a bit. I mean, you're not afraid to stand up there and be that nail in that board. Well, what's it like? What is it like down in the South? I mean, as far as the Civil War is spoken about, is it spoken about? Do people still hang on to it, or is it just how is it in the South?
it's
How is it possible?
really, oh man. Now, I grew up, when I grew up, the Civil War was like the Confederate Army was like the greatest thing you could ever imagine. I wanted a Civil War general's hat. I wanted a buckle that said CSA, because growing up a white boy in the South, especially when I grew up in the late 70s, 80s, it was all the rage. I grew up, my father taught me that we were Democrats, except when we voted for the National Party. Well, the National Party, we had to vote Republican, but and that was changing as the South became more and more Republican. But when I was a kid, it was a Democratic. And, because the Democrats in the South broke off and formed the Confederacy, basically, before the parties changed. My father grew up, my father I was a child growing up as the parties were swapping, so that nationally you had Democrats running for president that my father absolutely abhorred, but locally in the local elections we all voted Democrat. We really didn't even have like local Republicans. But I grew up and I voted conservative for a long time, even though I had black friends. I don't think I had any gay friends at that time because I didn't know people were gay because it was so hidden back then. Calling someone gay was like the worst insult when I was a kid. And as an adult, I actually left Mississippi to travel, visit, and I made friends who were gay. I made friends who were black. I made friends who were way more liberal than me. And eventually, about the time Obama was in office, I stopped voting Republican because I saw a lot of the financial stuff about, let's cut the taxes for the businesses while we were struggling. I had lost a job, I was hurting, and I kept reaching out to this Republican guy who I had been supporting for the House of Representatives. I'm like, I am starving here. I can't make my electric payment. I don't know what to do. Just tell me what I can do. And what they did for me was they sent me a email asking me to donate to their campaign. And I'm like, is I wasn't even asking for money. I'm just saying, is there any program I can apply for? Is there
Yeah.
anything to help me find a job? And the answer was, well, send us $50 and we will run next time. So I completely dropped out of the system. I refused to vote. And until 2016, I did not vote, and that's shameful of me. But it was just like neither party cares for us. I don't care. It's all horrible. It's all horrible. Me myself, I had never been that person. When I was a child, I had black friends. I went to a school that was, I think, 70% black, 20-30% white. I was the only white person at my high school graduation. So I did not have this racial divide that is going on in America now. I never felt that growing up. And it is a lot easier in the South, relations between blacks and whites now, more than you hear.
Yeah, we don't hear that too much. We
There
always hear there's a big divide, but
there
is there is there
there
is and there is, right?
there's this belief that everyone in the South is this evil, gun-toting, racist Nazi, and that's not necessarily true. But yes, there are a lot of gun-toting, racist Nazis in the South. But there are also a lot of really, really, really wonderful people. The problem is these really, really, really wonderful people all watch Fox News. They all go to a church where there's a preacher who is probably telling them, we got to get rid of these illegals. We got to get rid of the drag shows. We got to get rid of, the gay people who are assaulting our children. And a lot of people believe that. They're not a bad person. I was talking to a friend not too long ago. I said, if you could have someone who is an actual trans person, and I don't want to use the wrong word. So if you had like a child who was actually going through the struggles of realizing they didn't fit in, they could come down here and talk to almost any older Southern woman, and she would care for them and would feel for them and would treat them like they should be treated. But because people see the news, they see their preacher, and all they think is, "Oh my God, these trans people are ruining our children." And I do not believe that's true. I believe we're simply going through a phase in our society where more people are realizing this isn't who I am. I don't fit in. And it takes a very, very, very long time for attitudes to change in the South. When I was a child, the attitude toward black people was just starting to change. Now we're just starting to see a change where gay people are being more accepted. And I think 20 years down the line, trans people will be more accepted. However, they're going to go through a lot of hell between now and then. So it's easy to say, well, let's just sit back and let everything kind of ease on and happen, and eventually everything will be better. I do believe that's true, but there's going to be a lot of pain. There's going to be a lot of death and suicide, and I cannot stand to even think about that. And it was the same way with gay people for a long time. Were killing themselves. Gay kids were killing themselves because no one would support them. And
Mhm.
you know, um, being an asshole and knowing I'm right isn't worth someone killing themselves. And my message is to people everywhere who's like, you know what? You don't have to believe that this is right. You don't have to
Yeah,
be
you will. You can do whatever the hell you want. That's what
just
America
let
was
other
supposed to be.
people
That's
do what they
that's what we're
want to do.
supposed to be founded on, right?
And if it's your kid, say, I don't understand you, but I'm going to support you because you'd rather have your kids alive than dead. And you'd rather have your kids alive and gay or alive and trans than dead. And any parent who disagrees with that, I can't see you as a parent. That's me being provocative.
No, no, just being honest too. I mean,
Yeah.
being honest, and you're outspoken with this. Ha now, where did you where like I said, I mean, you mentioned your parents. So were you active? I mean, were you active in school?
No,
Were you, as far as, running for student office or anything like that?
no.
Did you ever consider running for any type of office?
I was a complete wallflower, and I'm still kind of an introvert. I still am. I have a few friends that I trust and talk to, but I mostly uh and COVID is part of that because I was literally out at a club in Pensacola one night right before the pandemic had hit, right before we shut down here, which we didn't stay shut down long, but right before we shut down. I was in Pensacola in a club, and I'm like, man, if I can smell the smoke, if I'm breathing in smoke from these people, I'm probably breathing in their germs too. And it scared me, and I really have not went out much socially since then. I kind of kept to myself. And in high school, that was it. High school, I was a total introvert, complete introvert.
Hmm. Um, Now, how do you feel? How do you now? You put out some books. How many books have you published?
I have self-published two shorts. I also have a short story that was published in the book Georgia Screeches, a play on Georgia Peaches, and it was short stories based around the Atlanta, Georgia area, and that was published right before COVID hit, honestly, because I had plans on doing some book signings and stuff like that, and then COVID hit, and everything was closed down. And at that point in time, I started just knocking around on a script because of a friend of mine who is a writer, producer in Hollywood, although he doesn't live in Hollywood now. And he encouraged me, damn him, to start working on some scripts. So I wrote three scripts, uh, which I never felt were good enough. And also not simply not knowing how to get those out and reach people. And then I started working on more shorts. Um, and I just decided to self publish a couple. And it was kind of just to put my name out there. And I started working on turning the script into a novel. And I think that was my first idea. And I said, well, you know what? If I do these shorts, I can get those out. So at least I have some stuff on the market. People can read it and say, oh my God, this guy is horrible. I'm never reading anything from him again. Or they can say, this ain't bad for a real first attempt at writing something and putting it out. And both of those that I have published now are free on Kindle. If you have I believe it's called Kindle Unlimited, you can read them for free. They are both, I believe, I think they're both 99 cents now because I believe that was the minimum Kindle would let me charge for them. And that's if you're not a Kindle Unlimited. Now,
Okay.
my third short, which I have called Under a Memphis Moon. I got to get the conjunctions and the particles right there. Pardon my English is long ago, but yeah, it's called Under a Memphis Moon. It is I'm still calling it a horror romance, and the only reason I haven't published it is I'm waiting on the artwork for the cover.
Uh,
And I was going to do AI art, but I finally decided just to hire an artist to do a cover for the short.
uh, we are. See, I'm going to catch up to the chat real quick. Because they've been popping. They've been here. They got here early tonight. This is awesome.
Yay!
I love when they get here. Hey, Professor. Professor McElbro is here. Let's see. Um, see, Star-Lord mentions he has astrophobia, which means he doesn't like storms. A lot of people don't like storms. The Echo
Me
saying,
either.
hello, hey, Professor Peaches. Oh, it's a new one to me. I didn't hear about that one. Professor Peaches. Okay. North is mentioning his grandfather grew up on a farm and went to work for Goodyear to work on aircraft. That's awesome. Stephen, our friend Stephen Chang, a publicist, is here.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah, he has let me know that he's got some friends for me to talk to for the show. Yes, definitely trying to do that. I'm booking him. I'm booking him as fast as he can bring him to me. Let's see. And Star Lord mentions he wears earmuffs for when it's stormy. Yeah, I understand that. Let's
It
see.
gets stormy here.
Yeah, it does. Sometimes a thunderstorm will come here in Michigan and it'll sit right on top of us and it won't move and it will thunderstorm all night long. And yeah,
Oh,
um, let's see. Let's see. AI art is sick. Yeah, that's the thing with the AI art. It's like they're people are using it more, and some people are saying that like, wow, that's really great. You did a really nice job, and some people are being honest about it and saying they're going like, So yeah, I didn't really do that. AI did that, but I think we're going to find more and more people are actually going to claim credit for that.
I think so. And for if you're doing the self releasing, and like my first short story, I think I sold like 40 or 50 copies the first week. And that's like, oh, great, that's 40 or 50 copies. But you basically make 20 or $30 off of that, the way I had it set up. And it's kind of hard to pay an artist $150 when you're thinking you may make $40 off of a
Right.
book. Yeah, that really breaks you really quickly. I'm doing it for this one because I think this is the best thing I've written so far. I still think, oh my God, this is not perfect, but I would send you a copy. I will send you a copy of the file if you have any interest in reading it.
I,
It's really
okay.
different.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like to read it. Yeah, definitely.
I people reading my stuff even if I don't get paid for it.
Mary Wilson is actually a hand. She draws. In
Oh,
fact,
really?
yeah, you should talk to her.
I have to
Seriously.
talk to her.
She is in the chat. I will introduce you to after this show is over with. She is one of the.
Awesome.
She's a fellow cinephile. She does the ISC show that I do on Sundays
Uh-huh.
with our friend Ben. But yeah, she does a lot of great work, and I'll definitely introduce you to you guys. She does it all by hand, and
Oh, that's awesome.
it's really cool actually.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Yes, yeah, very, very. In fact, she just shared me her interpretation of Swallow, um, which I'm gonna brag about. I'm gonna brag. So I got up this morning. It's not the first time, but it was almost like the most important time. But okay, so like my Grail guest, like like you want to talk to somebody, right? Like, I know a lot of people think, well, wait, aren't I your Grail guest? And you guys are. You're a Grail guest. Actually, that is actually truly true, because we're going to get into that.
Hopefully.
Because we got to share. I got to tell people how we met, because
Oh,
that's the fun. That's the fun part.
oh,
So
that is fun.
it is fun, and like I said, I was talking to a young lady yesterday, and she was going to college, and when I booked the show, her and I were talking, and she says, "Oh, by the way, I happen to know one of your former guests." And I go, "Well, you do?" She says, "Yeah, I went to school with her." I'm going like, "Well, what are the in Virginia?
Oh,
So what are the chances? What are the chances of that? So I thought about that, and then when I was talking to you, and I'm going like, "Yeah, because I met you, and then I found out that there's another person that we both know here on YouTube, and it's a small world sometimes."
it
Um,
really is.
But this morning I woke up. I woke up this morning and I found out that actress Haley Bennett had liked my comment about we're going to be covering Swallow, and he liked my comment on Instagram, and I was like, that's so cool. Now if I can just get her to come do an interview, I'd be
There you
tickled.
go. That's the fun
Um,
part.
that's yeah, isn't it? Yes. But Mary did a beautiful interpretation of the cover of the film for Swallow, and yeah, you guys need to talk. I'll set you guys up on
Let's do
Facebook
that.
afterwards, so you guys can get to know each other. And
Definitely.
and yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. So you're writing. You're writing. You went. What college? What university did you go to, or college did you go to? For,
Uh,
for
Let me get
journalism.
situated here. I went to. I'm sorry, I'm using my phone because if you follow me on Facebook, you know my computers are not doing. They're not cooperating with me lately.
Right.
I went to Northeast Mississippi Community College, and
Okay.
I got my degree in journalism there. And this was I'm trying to get in a good. There we go. That's a better position. Um, I got my degree in journalism there and went out and worked in a factory until they sent me back. And then I went back to Northeast Mississippi uh, Community College and got my degree in radiologic sciences, which at the point I went there, it wasn't so much, oh, this college is close to me. It was also one of the best colleges in the South at that point in time for to go to for radiology technology because if you passed their program, everyone who passed their program passed their bar or registration the first time they took it, and they all got jobs like very quickly. There was like no one failed. And I signed up because I'm like, wow, this program here is exceptional. I got accepted, and the teacher who accepted me, he was like, I don't do herky jerky. You know, you come into my class, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Why do you want to do this? And, you know, because you don't want to. I'm like, man, this is going to be rough. I got into class and I had a 3.7 GPA in the prerequisites. Barely got in. I was like 16th out of a class of 14, and I wormed my way up two because two people basically quit.
Mm.
And by the time I made it in, both of the teachers from the original class had quit. And we had two brand new teachers, one of them who had never even did the job that she was teaching. So it went from this super high acclaimed class till like no one in my class failed, but the next year after that, we had like two people fail their registry. And I'm like, oh my God. Luckily, me, I actually paid attention, and you know, it was kind of a struggle, but you know, made it through, got a good job in Mississippi, kept it for a while. I think kept it for about 4 years before I came here, and been working here, and basically trained on the job to do CT. I was just an X-ray tech. I trained on the job to do CT. I had plans to go into management, but I so enjoyed, because I've been management at a factory my last 5 years, I think. But I so enjoyed not having to tell other people what to do that I just decided to just be a CT tech. And if you've never told other people what to do, sometimes you realize that's more of a pain in multiple ways than just doing it yourself. People don't hate you as much. Go
Well,
ahead.
you know what it's like. It's funny. You know, it's funny. It's you know, the first time I was put in, you know, in charge, when I was doing music. I remember that it was very weird, very weird. You know,
Yeah.
first you go, it's just part of the crew. You know, you're just doing your job or whatnot, and next thing you know, the owner says, by the way, I'm putting you know, part of my businesses, I'm putting it in your hand, and he gives you the key and says, wherever you say it goes. You know, it's like, you know, you really sort of, you know, and you've heard about that times where people, when they don't know, because a lot of times people are just told that they're going to be
Yeah.
leaders. They're going to be told, okay, so you're going to be taken over. We're going to make you a supervisor. We're going to make. There's no warning. There's no teaching. There's no shadowing or mentoring. And a lot of times when people become supervisors or people's bosses, they don't know how to handle it. You know, because yesterday you're my buddy, you're my nurse buddy. Now tomorrow you're my supervisor, and you're telling me to go out there and, you know, do a duty, whereas yesterday you were doing the same duty that I was.
Yeah.
And it's like you know, and I don't you know, what I think a lot of companies do, whether they realize it or not, is they, you know, a lot of times they look at that swim or, you know, swim or sink or swim. But I think a lot of times when companies do that, and tell me if you agree with this or not, but I think a lot of times when people do that, or companies do that, they set the person up for failure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because you know, you got to, you know, you to me it's like, if you identify somebody as you want to promote, you do it. You go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to take you aside, and we're going to go ahead and I want you to start shadowing me. I want you to start, you know, you're going to be hanging out with, doing some, you know, some meetings and stuff like that. And people from the outside, they will see that you've been picked. All right, you're not a supervisor yet, but you're starting to learn it, because now you're hanging out with the supervisors. Now people identify that. They say, oh, okay, so and so got picked. Now you could be jealous of that or whatever, you know, but the fact of the matter is that when they do get that responsibility and they do come over to you and they do say, hey, I need you to do that, you know, for me, it's not new. It's like, you can't really use that as like, wow, power went to them, you know, it went straight to their
Yeah.
head, you know. That's not the case. You as the employee, fellow employee, you know that they got picked. You
That
know they
was
got picked. You know, you can't use that excuse.
That was
Um,
kind of the way I was picked. I had been there working on the floor as an employee for a long time, and I finally moved into a quality department, which you're still just a regular employee. And literally, one of the supervisors who I knew came out. He's like, "You went to college, didn't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got 2 years." He's like, "You want to be in supervision?" And I'm like, He's like, "Well, I'm in quality now. That's kind of like it." He's like, "Yeah, but you want to be supervisor?" And I'm like, "Well, number one, the plant manager would never allow me to be supervisor because I don't like him, and he knows I don't like him." And he's like, "Well, he doesn't matter anymore because he'll be gone. He's basically signing whatever we tell him to sign and waiting for to go out the door." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know the job." And they're like, "That's okay, you'll learn." And that was it. And
yeah,
the next week, I'm now the supervisor of all these people who I used to work with, and there's you that does set you up for some disrespect because then suddenly everybody's like, "I could do that job. I don't know why they picked him." And really, the one qualification was you've had some college, right? And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I've got a degree." And they're like, "Okay, you're a supervisor now." Boom. And that was it.
yeah. Degree does not, and you got to agree with this. I mean, in some respects, I think people in the chat will probably agree with this too. But the degree doesn't always necessarily make you
No,
superior. I mean,
no.
there's a lot of jobs where there's a lot of jobs where um, practical was far better.
Yeah,
It's like, I've always, when I did wildland fires, I was on a wildfire crew, and then people were like, they were going to, a fireman came up there and says, "Let me ask you guys to ask you a question. Who would you hire? Would you hire the guy that came out of college with a degree, who knows everything there is to know, or would you hire the guy that has 75 fires underneath their belt?"
yeah. A
You
lot depends on where your knowledge is and what job you're doing. And when my job in the factory played off, I was laid off, and my former boss come to me. He's like, "Hey, you need a job?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm planning on going back to school." And he's like, "Well, if you need a job, we can fly you to Massachusetts and interview you, and you'll be my assistant there." So I
know,
flew to Massachusetts, Waltham, Massachusetts. I flew to, I think, Springfield, Connecticut, I think, and then drove on to Waltham. And I went in and I interviewed, and they told me what I'd be making, and we talked, and I'm like, that's a decent amount of money, but it's not much. He's like, "Well, you'll be making more than every other supervisor in the building, and you'll be a supervisor, and you'll be making this much more than every other supervisor there." And I said, "But I don't know the job, and these people are already working here." They're like, "Well, don't worry, you'll learn the job."
oh God,
And
yeah,
I said, "You're basically telling me that I'm going to come in here making several dollars an hour more than every other supervisor." I said, "Every other supervisor and every other worker in this building is going to hate me because they're going to realize I don't know what I'm doing and I'm getting paid more than them."
yeah.
And
That's setting up for failure.
and I said, "I don't even know if this factory is going to survive." And they're like, "Oh, well, we got this plan and this plan and this plan." I'm like, "We tried all that in Mississippi and it didn't work. And we were paying people a lot less." And I eventually said, I'm just going to go back to school. And it was a rough couple of years going back to school, but in run, it was worth it.
Um, so you must really love your job at the hospital, though.
Some nights.
I mean, yeah. I mean, uh, I guess it's hard for someone that has compassion to. It's a hard job. You have compassion
It,
because
it,
you
it
get
does.
because you do get affected by it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. The worst part about it is you eventually you get colder. It no longer affects you, and it has to, because if it affects you, you won't stay in it. And I know quite a few nurses who quit during COVID because, as well trained and skilled as they were, that was so rough that they just, I can't take it anymore. One of my best friends almost quit um, during COVID.
yeah. Was it as bad as they say it was
It was
during
worse.
COVID, or worse?
It was worse here. And this is in Alabama where nobody wanted to wear a mask. We shut down basically one weekend and people raised holy hell. And the beaches were open within a week or two. Everything was pretty much open within a week or two, and people were dying. And this was a small, still a relatively small area, not big city, and people were dying like you would not believe.
Man,
And
no.
um,
You know what though? It's like, wow. I mean, this may be controversial, but man, is it one of those things where it's like you asked for this? You know, you were told not to
a
do this.
lot of people,
Yeah,
I
you know, you were told, you know, you're here. Here's the doctors are telling you, stay 6 feet away from each other, wear a mask, try not to go
yeah,
out in public, and then people still insisted on doing, and then they come back to you, who you told them what to do to stay away from that situation. They didn't listen. Then they want to come to you and expect you to help them.
I
Man,
have,
you know, my first feeling, and Lord, God help me, but my first feeling is let them burn. You know, it's like they're sitting here telling you to, hey, save, not only save your own life, you know, listen to what the doctors look. If you trusted the doctor before the pandemic, right? If you trusted them to take care of you and your family before the pandemic, why the hell were you not listening to them during the pandemic?
that's what I simply could not understand. It's like, oh, I'm going to the doctor every week to get my high blood pressure medicine, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to believe him. And I have literally had people come in with COVID, coughing their lungs up, sick as a dog. So you were just diagnosed with COVID. Well, the doctor told me I had COVID. I don't believe him. But you're
Oh,
laying here coughing your lungs out and you don't believe you've really got COVID.
oh,
And there's a lot of things I won't say because I work at a hospital. I mean, I'm not going to give any patients' names or anything, but
oh
it is
God, no.
unbelievable the stupidity. And even a lot of healthcare workers who are like, I'm not getting the vaccine because, vaccine hasn't been tested, blah, 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 blah.
I can
And
understand, you know, I can understand that more a little bit, you know, because, you know, a little bit, but at the same time, it's like, you know that they were bum rushing everything. You know,
yeah,
they're desperately trying to get a stopgap. I mean, you know, to make, you know, and to at least try to slow it down. That's really what it was. It was
oh, yeah.
everybody thought the vaccine was a cure, and it's like it's not a cure. It's not a
No,
cure. It's just trying to slow it. What it's like, look, you're still gonna get sick. All we're trying to do is you're gonna get sick, but you're still gonna be alive. There's no cure for it yet. We're
no,
not saying that there is. We're just saying this will help you, you know, and yes, people did die during the vaccine. People have side effects. I mean, that happens.
yeah,
But
it
Jesus
happens to
Christ,
everybody.
what vaccine doesn't?
Yeah,
You know, what vaccines, even today, people still have reactions to vaccines.
no, yeah,
One,
people have reactions to flu vaccine.
one per 10,000. You know, to me, if I give up my life, if I died taking a vaccine, yet it helped save 10,000 people, am I doing so? You know,
Yeah,
I'm good. I've had a good time. I've had a good time here.
we
I could accept that.
we quite literally had a tent outside the hospital, which we did not. Whoop, sorry, so I had a pop up. Yeah, we literally had a tent set up outside the hospital, which we did not have to use for COVID. And it was simply a situation because it gets so hot here. And there was like the tent was like super, super emergency, which we did not have to use it. We piled people into the hospital and they stayed there, and a lot of them never came out. And I've seen friends come in with COVID so demented out of their brain because it does affect your thinking. And I'm not sure. I assume it's the fever that goes along with it, but I've had friends come in who look at me straight in the eye, smiling, and had no idea who I was or where they were.
Uh, let's see some of the Hi Andre, how are you? Andre from New Zealand, my good buddy.
Hey,
All right. The guy knows everything there is to know about boxing. Total. I used to watch boxing when I was a kid. I got away from it. Met Andre. Now I'm sitting there reading about boxing every single week now. Seriously,
oh,
I'm back into boxing. All right. Echo's mentioning he saw a guy walk into a store during using one of those Friday the 13th hockey masks that you get for Halloween that has a face mask, nothing under it, just a cheap Halloween mask. Yeah. Of course, you're always gonna get some buffoon.
Did he
Um,
weigh 500 pounds? If he did, I know who it was.
oh man. Yeah, we're gonna. I don't know I don't know what happened to him. I thought he'd be here by now.
Oh,
Our
really?
Yeah, not him.
Oh,
I thought our friend Eric would be here by now. Um, let's see. When I got my last booster, I got a bad case of the chills, and it was very good around that same time that made the chills worse. Yeah, I almost faded during my second booster. I got up and I almost faded. It was just like, oh, next thing I know, I was up, and then the very second that happened, I thought I was having a stroke. I was like, am I dying here? No, it was just I got up too
yeah,
fast.
yeah.
I slept for 3 hours. I got up and I was good as rain.
I've been very lucky. I hadn't had any serious effects from the shot, and I got my flu and my first COVID at, I believe, the same morning, and I have not caught COVID. I
Hmm.
went and got tested once because one of my coworkers had developed COVID, and I was feeling kind of feverish and everything, and I went to the doctor, got tested, and tested negative. And this was early on, but I wonder now if we are not getting a lot of false negatives and false negatives because I've seen people with COVID symptoms who test negative, and I'm like, wow, that person is very COVID like, and their scans look very COVID like because COVID looks a lot like pneumonia. But if you really know what you're doing and know how to read a CT, you can tell the difference between COVID pneumonia and other forms of pneumonia. Um, and after you see enough of it, you kind of like, holy crap, that looks like COVID. And I'm not always right, but I'm like, oh, that looks like COVID pneumonia.
Well,
And
let me ask you this: you being a writer and working at a hospital, any chances of you becoming a Robin Cook or a Michael Crichton? Are
I
you
would
going to start writing?
love, I would love to cash Michael Crichton's checks. Uh, I don't know if I'm smart enough. Um, I will say the novel that I am working on is called Night Shifting, and it is a set in a hospital on a full moon, and one of their patients just happens to end up being a werewolf. Um, so it's a very, very simple situation where if you've ever worked at a hospital, and a lot of people who don't work in the hospitals have heard the old myth that everything gets worse on the night of a full moon. Police are busier, hospitals are busier. They simply kick into overdrive, and there's no real explanation for it. Um, I hate working on full moons. Absolutely hate it. And of course, full moons also is the time when werewolves supposedly do their little dance and jig. So I'm like, why has no one ever put this together? And I'm putting it out there now, so some smart person is going to listen to this and like steal it and write it before I finish it.
Uh-oh, I have a feeling that I can already hear. Yes. So you and
I
I,
I actually have the
um,
idea of copyright it, and
it's a good thing.
with the Writers Guild of America, and I'm supposed to. I have a friend who is a writer, producer, director, and he wants to option it just based on the idea. So I'm at that point on optioning the script to him. Um, he just he's just got to get finished writing the project he's on now, and then us do the paperwork.
Um, you and I, you and I met because like I said, you are, you pretty much,
A
you know,
loudmouth.
well, no, I don't say a loudmouth at all, Alan. I mean, you just don't like injustice. You don't like bullies. You don't like people throwing their weight around. And you speak up to it. You've gotten in trouble quite a bit on social media because you express yourself. Uh, I mean, come on. You mentioned earlier about the people down in the south. A lot of them are being good people or whatnot. But that was in Italy and Germany too. There
Yeah.
was a lot of good people during those countries, but yet they stood by and watched as the fascists and Nazis took over. And when good people do nothing, evil win. So and you're the type of person that, like, if when you do see it, you're not afraid to comment about it. And a lot of people get confused. They get really confused. They get confused with, I don't talk politics. And it's like, what we're talking about is not politics. It's more of a moral center. It's a moral belief. It's a difference between right and wrong. You know, doing
It's
right and
about
doing
people
wrong
not
is not
dying to a
it's
large
not
extent.
political. It's not a political thing. Doing right or wrong. It's not political. Or I can only do good if I'm a Republican, or I can only do bad if I'm a Democrat. No,
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with it. It doesn't get, nobody gives a shit about which party you do. You know, the right and good, good and evil. That's a moral. That's a moral value that has been instilled in you. Either it's been instilled in you, or by role models, or you instilled it yourself by learning and watching and knowing what's good and right, what's good and wrong. People do know what is right and wrong.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, you just do know. Why do you think people always run when they do bad? A lot of people, yeah, well, I ran because I was afraid. If you're afraid, you should never. You don't. Why are you? Why run? I just like, don't make a stand. I'm talking about figuratively.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah. Sometimes you do got to run, as we know, because unfortunately, if you're the wrong economic class or the wrong skin color, yeah, I understand you running. I tell you not to. I tell you try not. I tell you to make like an eagle, face down, and take your chances. But I understand that. But figuratively, you can't run. You
Yeah.
can't run from evil. You can't run from it.
No.
Sometimes you have to make a stance. You have to put the flag down and sit there and say, "This is as far as I'm going to go," and fight. Um,
One of the things that, like, and as I said, I grew up in the South, and I grew up as a gun owner. I learned to shoot when I was a child. I used to hunt, and I would occasionally tell jokes that I would not tell now. But I grew up, and as I said, when I first got out of Mississippi and met other people, then suddenly, like, well, telling the gay jokes just doesn't seem fair, since I know this person here, and he's actually a nice person. He's not this horrible stereotype that I was led to believe. But with guns, one of the driving factors, and I did say my parents had a huge impact on me, although I don't admit that a lot. But I don't have any kids, but I have three nephews and two nieces. My three nephews are all three, not both, but all three of them are mixed ethnicity. Their father was black, my sister's white. And with the situation with unarmed black people being killed, and it's so easy to say, just obey the law, just comply. And I had to have a talk with my oldest nephew, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you to do if you're approached by a police officer.
yeah, the
You're
cop, the
in
cop will.
college now. You like to smoke dope. I know that. I don't know what to tell you to do. I mean, do you drop down to the ground, put your hands up? Do you beg? Do you cry? Or do you run? I don't know and that's what took me from being mildly distressed at the cops till in fear. I come close to buying them bulletproof shields to put in their backpacks. I was so worried. Two of them
My,
are
my,
two of them are out of high school. One's about to graduate, so hopefully the worst of that is over with them. But
the man who I identify with as my father, his name was Louis Weirton. He was a peace officer. He was a Marine first. He fought in Korea. Then
yeah,
he became a police officer. The lady who I identify with as my mother was Anna, and she worked as a surgical nurse, a ER nurse. So I had great role models,
yeah,
and I was taught to respect police officers and whatnot.
okay,
My dad, his career ended when he was trying to he was trying to capture an escaped mental patient, and he blew out his knee.
oh wow,
Back then, and when you blew out your knee, that was a career ender. It wasn't
yeah,
like, okay, we'll scope it and you'll be back in 8 months or so, or 6 months. Um, but I grew up, like when you saw a police officer, you could wave at him, or you could talk to him, you could walk up and talk to him. But as it went on, that has vanished.
yeah,
You think the older you get, the more you become indoctrinated into trusting the police. For me, it's the reverse. It's like I trust them less. I
oh yeah,
don't trust them at all. And I don't. I look at them going like, you're not. And I had a lot of police officers as friends in San Jose, And I even have a couple here in the town that I was in. There's a couple of people I really liked a lot, but as a whole, I just, as a society, I
Yeah.
just don't trust them anymore.
No.
They're
They
far
make
too
their
militarized. But that we know what it is. When the cop gets, to me, it's like when a cop gets shot. It used to be a big thing. In some places it still is. A cop dies in the line of
yeah.
duty, and next thing you know, you'll see like 50 officers from 50 different cities coming to. And to me, I'm just like, this is gonna sound cold and callous, but I'm like, if you guys actually stood up as one and you just, you used your enormous, your political power that you had, and if police officers actually stood up and spoke out against gun violence, it would change the culture of the
Exactly.
country. It,
And,
it, it would change it. I mean, it would flip overnight. If the
yeah.
police officers actually sat there and said, when Florida says, "Well, we're going to allow everybody to carry a gun without a license, without a permit." If I'm a cop, do you really think that? You know what? I would be sitting there going like, I'm leaving. If you're
Yeah.
going to put that into play, I mean, if all the cops sit there and says, "Well, you know what? If you put that into law, I can tell you right now, you're going to lose 60-70% of the officers right here in this state." Because
Yeah.
we're not. I
They
don't want
do
to be.
not
I don't
like
want to be
it.
a target. I'm not going to be a
They,
target. I mean, every single person I'm approaching, psychologically speaking, every person I'm approaching could be strapped. It could be. I could die with every
exactly.
single encounter that I do. The job was dangerous as it was, but now it's even worse because now everybody has it. But the police, they don't care. They don't. They just like, well, would you like to have stronger gun laws? No, no, because now because they look at it, the way I look at it, it's like, well, the more people that have weapons, the more money we get, and the more
Exactly.
militarized we get. So it's a rock and a hard place for them. It's like, all right, so that's your attitude. You don't care about the gun violence. You don't care about the kids. You don't care. Then why are you asking us to give a shit about you when you get laid out by some guy at a traffic stop?
Yeah.
Because
Well,
that's what you wanted. That's what you
that's a
wanted. That's what you asked for, and you got it. And then you can't go around complaining about it. You can't sit there and say, it's a shame that these guys have all these guns. 75% of the people who commit murder don't have a police record.
yeah.
They have no police record. Every person that they encounter with, that shoots them, there's no red flag
Pretty
because
much every
yeah,
school shooting, the person has been a law-abiding citizen up until he pulls that gun
hmm
out and shoots it. And I mean, he's a law-abiding citizen when he pulls it out because you can legally pull your gun out almost everywhere. But until they pull the trigger, they're law-abiding citizens. But I said, oh God, it's probably been 10 years ago. I said that the entire thing with police shooting black people, police getting killed by black people. It's a never ending circle because police shoot a black person, and let's say maybe that black person did do something to deserve it, maybe they didn't, but it's a questionable shooting. What does that do? Suddenly, more black people are afraid of the police. So what do because they're afraid of the police? They buy guns. They pull
hmm
their guns quicker. What do the police do? They say, well, more black people have guns. They're shooting at cops. We need to shoot quicker. And it just keeps revolving and feeding itself and getting bigger. And there has to be a stop to it. And no one wants to stop it. The police don't want to stop it because they have their union saying, we're justified. We have to do this. We have to do that. And don't worry, they can't sue you if you kill them because it's qualified immunity. If you drop qualified immunity, then you would have bad cops getting sued and get rid of them, and also make them have to buy insurance, make them pay a premium. Doctors have to have malpractice
yeah,
insurance.
that's
You
right. They
can't
do.
operate on someone without malpractice insurance. And if cops had malpractice insurance, they would calm down because the more they cover your insurance claims, the more your payments go up. And that's one thing police do care about is how much money they get paid.
Oh,
Um,
they get paid astronomical. It used to be
yep.
you would hear that cops and firemen don't make enough money. Well, I don't
Yeah,
know about the firemen. I'm probably that still probably holds case for firemen, but cops make over 100 grand a year,
yeah, I
and they're
know.
not, and they make over 100 grand a year. I mean, it's amazing, and we're not talking just like the big cities. We're talking like everywhere. They
Yeah,
make that kind of money.
and they get free transportation because they drive their vehicles with gas paid for by you and me. And we have people who work in Mobile and they live over here. It's an hour drive. And who's buying their gas? Me and you. And they're making, like you said, they make more than me. And I've had lots of bad experiences that I'm not going to talk about because it involves work. And,
Sure.
but
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I'm sure you've
they,
seen it for share.
they need to get rid of the unions, establish a new union that actually gets them job security and stuff like that, and doesn't keep them out of prison when they break the law. Because
I and I think that's all. I don't want to seem to be just jumping on them because I do feel sorry for them. I do feel sorry
oh
for them
my,
in the respect that the psychological impact, the PTSD. I mean, the pressure on every single person you stop. Before, a cop could read a suspect, could read a situation. He could read that and get an idea about what's good. That this person seems sort of hinky. Okay, so you get an idea. You could have separation. You know, okay, this person here, yeah, I don't really, doesn't look like this type of person that's going to be pulling out any sort of weapon. I could talk to him a little bit or whatnot. But now with everybody being as they tight as they are, and everybody, not just well, it's a female, so they're not going to do anything. Not anymore.
yeah,
Not anymore. Now
uh,
you got them pulling out there too, and you got the newscast out there showing all these people, shooting at gun ranges, people buying guns left and right. To me, to be a cop, to walk up there and sit there and like every person that you come in contact with, every
could
person
kill you.
could kill you. And we're not going to talking adults. We're talking even kids
Yeah,
could kill you. Um, that's yeah, that's yeah,
but
it,
it's a dangerous job, and I'm
yeah.
not going to say, oh, it's not a dangerous job. But just because it's a dangerous job doesn't mean you get to preemptively kill someone because there's a possibility they could kill you.
No,
You can
because you asked
wind
for it.
up,
You
yeah,
you you created a situation where every person that you encounter could pull on you, could drop, pull on you.
yeah,
You created that. You're behind it. You caused your own demise. When you're sitting there and you're bleeding out on the sidewalk at 4 a.m. in the morning, you know, your brothers in blue, they enabled that to happen to you.
yep.
They
And you're not
enabled
willing to stand up and say, hey, we,
it. And
we need to
that's a
make
shame.
changes. If you're a good cop, you need to condemn the bad cops
Yes.
because in healthcare, you definitely no one's going to think you're a great guy if you know someone who's being, if your buddy comes in every night stoned off his head and you don't want to talk about him because you got that thin whatever color line, and I'm not going to say anything about Dr. Bob over here because I know he's on cocaine, but he's a good guy and he's my friend. No, you have to straight up and say there's a problem with Dr. Bob, and the good cops have to do the same thing. They're like, there's a problem with Fred over there. He's been talking about killing people, and I think he needs to see a therapist. Therapy would do wonders for a lot of these bad cops. Um,
Stop them before, well, vetting them would be a lot better too.
yes.
Vetting them out. I mean, we just had a local police chief in the town next to me. He was forced to resign because someone had dug up some old videos of him when he was an officer, and he was doing some really hideous things.
Yeah.
He was like making people like do shit in order for this. I won't arrest you if you do this. And it was 25 years ago, but it was just showing that the person should have never had the badge in the first place.
There's a
And
lot of that.
and it's like you look at him now and say, yeah, but that was 25 years ago. Really, you don't think that he grew out of that behavior? You don't think? No, trust me, he did. The power of the badge empowers you. And he says, well, I was a long time ago. Well, it should have never happened at all. There shouldn't be anything like that up. That's why we have. That's why now that's why we have to have body cameras. Body cameras, they're there to protect us. They're not there to protect the cop. They're there to protect us and our rights.
And they
And they
should
don't.
not be turned
They
off.
fought like hell. They fought like hell. I don't want to have. I don't want to wear a body camera. I don't want to wear. Yeah, yeah. You have to protect the citizen. It's
Yeah,
not us. It's not. It's
part of
not
the
there to
job.
protect you. So you have a sense. So you have a strong sense of social justice. Um, were you bullied when you were younger? Was that a key to what we're going to talk about next? Was that?
Honestly, uh, I was, but it was never like a absolutely horrible thing. Now I remember the first time I was cyberbullied. I was playing EverQuest and I was talking about something online, and someone told me to go into my parents' basement and hang myself, and I'm just like, what? Why would you tell someone to hang yourself? But I never had the bullying as a child that I have seen on social media, and I don't really feel like I've been bullied that much. I've been threatened quite a few times. I've had quite a few people threaten to kill me, including the person we're talking about. He actually, the story I was told, he had basically messaged like 4 or 5 people and give them my home address and told me that they should do what needs to be done. Um, Luckily, he had the wrong address, and none of the people he sent the address to were, none of them were hitmen,
Wow,
and
he's lucky
he
to get
didn't have
arrested.
any money anyway. His 25 cents that he makes off his books would not pay for a decent hitman. Um, but I've been threatened to be killed, counting him, around 6 or 7 times. Oh, and all on social media. And
That's
one
crazy.
was a vet who was a cop, and he was trying to hide the fact he was a cop, but he had pictures of him graduating on his Facebook. And it was this discussion on the FBI Facebook page, and the dude's like, "I'll put a bullet between your eyes from half a mile away." And I'm like, "Dude, you just threatened to kill me on the FBI Facebook page." It's like, "No, no, no, I wasn't threatening to kill you." And I'm like, I screenshot the picture and then posted. I'm like, "You said you would put a bullet between my eyes." "Oh, I wouldn't threaten to." What the hell is that? This was a cop from Missouri.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. With the person we're talking about, is the worst cyberbully I've ever seen on my time on social media, and I've been on since the beginning.
He wanted
And I
me
want to know.
dead.
I'm gonna ask the chat about this too. Um, How many experiences have you had with a cyberbully? To the chat, I'm asking. I know Andre didn't get bullied, that's for sure, because he just beat that ass.
There
So
you go.
yeah, yeah, who's gonna do that? You could talk lip, but he knocked your shadow out. Um, so I'm gonna ask you guys: have you guys ever been cyberbullied on social media? Uh, yeah, it's a good question. I'm gonna ask everybody. Just go ahead, and if you have been cyberbullied, maybe drop a paragraph or two about your experience. Yeah, Andre says no. Well, we sort of knew that one, Andre. I'm thinking to myself, who would be the last person that I know that would not be cyberbullied? And now Andre would be the first one I would say. No, no one's that stupid. Um, all right, so we're talking about this bully. He's the worst cyberbully I've ever encountered. And this is how I met Allen. I met Allen because of the cyberbully. So there's one good thing he did, even though he did it indirectly. Um, wow, vicious human being.
I call him Willie Rollbar, and I don't. It's from an old cartoon, I think, but Sweet Willie Rollbar when I don't want to say his name.
Okay,
You
Willie Robar. Yeah,
know,
that's what we're talking about. The most vicious cyberbully I've ever seen. Um,
he really is.
how did you get into his hair and into his scope? I mean, I got into his scope when he attacked a friend of mine. He was a editor of a magazine, and he just attacked him. And I came across it. I'm like, wow, what's this guy's problem? Like, dude, What's your problem? And then he just got worse. I went over and checked out his YouTube page, and this guy is as vile as hell. What was your encounter with him? What happened that made him that made you his target?
To start off, I had no idea this person existed, and
Me
I
either.
was on. There used to be a website from dusk till con, and it was a convention website, and I went to conventions, and he started posting on there, and he was posting because he was cyber stalking. I don't want to say her name, but she was a fairly popular person in the horror community, and she ran a convention in California, and she had apparently told Willie he could be a guest, and some people complained. See, I keep saying his name, but uh, apparently some people complained, or he did something, so she did not invite him. And it was not like she invited him and canceled it. She just apparently said, "Well, I'm doing a show, and yeah, if you want to be there, we'll work something out." And it didn't happen. And he started posting, "This person told me I would be at her show, but she hasn't invited me. So y'all all need to email her and tell her to invite me," which is kind of low level cyber stalking, because you're not telling them to say anything bad or anything. You're just saying, call her and demand that I be a guest. So I saw
Mhm.
this and I just laughed at it. I'm like, oh my God, this is freaking hilarious. And I talked to another friend, and he actually said something to Willie. He replied to him. It's like, dude, you keep saying you're part of the Friday the 13th franchise and you're not. And he blocked my friend and went off on him, and like, I gave you the claws because you attacked me. And I was saying, I'm like, he didn't really attack you. He just said you aren't all that and you need to calm down. So I was still following him. And one day he attacked the Saska sisters, and he attacked Katie Isabel. And I love Katie to death. That is the one person who still makes me fanboy out, is Katie Isabel from Ginger Snaps and
Sure.
American Mary. Um, and when he attacked her, I just said, "Wait a minute, dude." Said, "I don't. It's been so long, I don't remember it." I basically said, "You're not being fair," and he, of course, went off on me. We ended up getting into a fight on Day Green's Facebook page, because Day had posted something about the Saskas, and he went on, "Well, they're doing this, and they don't like their fans and all this." And I went in and I said something about him, and of course he gave me the claws and blocked me, and it just kind of kept going because he kept attacking people, and I eventually met Eric, um, and I had been a friend. I Eric was a friend of Willie, and
Yeah.
I had run into a few other people who were having problems, and we just got chit chatting and laughing about it. And several of Willie's friends came to me. It's like, "Oh my dude, dude, he's going off on you and he's ranting on you." And about the same time, this other person started harassing Willie online. It's not me. I know who the person is. He's not involved in the horror community. He just ran across Willie and started trolling him. And it was pretty much harmless trolling. Just, your books are shit. Your books are horrible. Willie became convinced it was me. And it was not. Um, but Willie became convinced it was me. And he went to my blog and he stole pictures of me, and he basically made a fake Twitter account where he accused me of being a pedophile. He accused me
Oh,
of
wow.
a ton of shit, which I knew none of this was going on because he blocked me. I went on and I just hear stuff from him. And suddenly someone's like, "Dude, look at this." And I'm like, "Oh, fuck." And I lost it. I
Wow.
remember it was, I think, a Saturday morning. I got up, the guy sent me this message. I got so mad. I got in my car and I was ranting about it to a friend, and I ended up driving like 20 or 30 miles, and you had no idea how I even got there. It's just like so angry. So after that, I kind of went after him. I trolled him a little bit. And like I said, I used to troll a little bit too, but I tried to never get mean. And I finally said, this is it. I stopped, and he kept attacking me because everyone who attacked him, he thought it was me. And as you know, Eric was trolling him.
We got to
Eric,
tell people who Eric is. Eric is hey internet, it's Eric.
yes,
That's who we're talking about. This is who is our third mutual friend, and you guys all in the chat all know who Eric is. You know who you see him in various panels or whatnot. What a lot of people don't know about Eric is that he hates cyberbullies as much as anybody, and he won't tolerate it. He will not tolerate it. If he sees it, he will. Yeah, yeah. Willie has found that out. Willie has found that out. He got locked in the crosshairs. He made a lot of he said a lot of cruel things to Eric, who used to be his friend, who used to
yeah.
support him,
Eric never
and then
did
he started,
anything.
and then he made it really personal, real personal, and he got locked into
Yeah.
the crosshairs, and Eric just wasn't going to sit there. He's like, well, screw that, you know, I'm not gonna let somebody do that to me or anybody else. And between you and some other people, you guys took it to him. I mean, he was sitting over there saying all this shit to you guys without expecting any blowback. But then one day he woke up and guess who was knocking on his door? I don't think he was expecting that. I don't think he was
Who,
expecting that.
who
And
was? Wait, is this someone physically went to him?
no, no, literally. I mean,
Oh, oh,
you guys all like, we're not going to sit here and take this
oh.
guy attacking us and belittling us and attacking innocent people. And you guys all like sort of conformed. You guys all sort of like joined up a little bit. You guys shared common experiences, and then it's
Well,
like, you know what? We're not going to let him do this. And you guys pretty much have it. Um, he is he is pinned on the social media. He can't even like I said the other day, like I told you, it's like if he had to take it, if he was outside in the woods taking a dump, Eric would be the one handing him the toilet paper
well,
because that's how much Eric is on his ass. Like I'm gonna make sure that you're not gonna hurt anybody else. I've seen what you've done to a lot of people who have no idea who this guy is or why all of a sudden they're in, why he's I mean some of the stuff that he says, I mean it's on YouTube.
oh yeah.
If you guys want to know who this person is off camera, I'll tell you and I'll give you a link and you can listen to some of that shit that he's saying and you tell me if this is not the worst you've ever heard. I would be very curious to see if you've heard anybody worse than this.
Well, he quite literally has a tattoo on his back from his pretend girlfriend because his
Yes.
pretend girlfriend is a famous actress,
Yeah.
and we between the group of us, Eric and Billy and me and a few other people, we basically went to director Kevin Tenney. It's like, did she ever date him? Because even though you could not imagine him dating this young actress in Hollywood, and he was like, no, said, I've never even heard these stories. And he asked Kathleen Wilhoit is the actress that he pretended to be dating, and
Yeah.
got a tattoo of her on his shoulder. And there was another girl, he has a tattoo on his arm of the word Nikki, which is another girlfriend of his who he never dated. And I talked to her. I literally spoken with her, and she was like, "No, he used to come into the store where I worked, and I was nice to him because I work in a store." And he got a little. I believe the story was he got a little too. You're my girlfriend, and she finally is like, "Look, I have a boyfriend. You're not my boyfriend." And he made up. Well, I don't think he made up the story, but basically, what I heard was he went and took a poop in her yard. And then her and her boyfriend came and took a poop in his yard.
Oh,
And
gee.
one of them filed restraining order against the other one. And apparently, Willie even had a bag of poop that he carried to court with him as evidence.
Oh, gee.
And I did a huge blog post, which I believe I sent you the link to the blog, about the strange case of Willie and um, Kathleen Wilhoit, where I
Oh,
basically took everything he said, because I had 3 or 4 different people sending me messages he had sent them about when he met Kathleen, when they started dating, and none of it makes sense. I mean, you can sit there and look at it, and they broke up because his house caught on fire and she thought he died.
Yeah.
And
I like the Star Trek 2 stories. That's my favorite one.
oh yeah, he wrote Star Trek too.
Yeah, he
With
wrote Star Trek 2 with Nicholas Myers.
yeah, and let's see, Harlan Ellison, was it Harlan? No, it was someone involved with Star
No,
Trek.
no, it was
Uh,
Harley Ellison was his mentor.
yeah,
Uh,
Harlan mentor who told him that he would kick his pimply ass if he didn't stop calling him his mentor.
yeah. Uh, yeah, that's not something. Isn't that something else? Uh,
He's amazing.
let's see. Let's see. People are dropping comments about their experiences with cyber bullies and how they respond to it. Yeah, not a pleasant story because a lot of people got really hurt by that. Uh,
He,
and
yeah,
the viciousness. That um, you know, yeah, I didn't know anything about this until I was talking to Eric, and then I started seeing what I started seeing you being attacked, and I was like, and all you guys were doing was just trying to, just to, hey, stop, think before you speak. But I think it's one of those things where he just wants to be. It's almost like he's just dying to be famous, and
he is.
he never will be. And that time is gone. And he's been caught plagiarizing.
Yep.
Um, and he actually openly admitted it that he was plagiarizing. And
He has.
and it was like, who would do that if you got? I mean, you got caught plagiarizing. You're an author, and you got caught plagiarizing somebody else's work. I mean, our idea, and you sit there. Yeah, I took it from him. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know some people say that. Well, maybe he's not mentally stable. I don't know about his mental state. I just know that he's the most vicious cyber bully I've ever seen, and I always respect you and Eric so much for taking him on. And because a lot of people, they would just walk away from that. I mean, they just like, they would hit the block button and let it go.
A
And,
lot of people
and the fact of the
have.
matter is that fact of the matter is, although you're there trying to make sure that he does not hurt anybody else, like like he's done to other people. That's just something you don't really see too much online any day. A lot of times people will they'll see it like a car crash, they'll watch it, but they won't take any action to stop it.
Well, it's like the Saskas did absolutely nothing. They denied they had ever did a podcast with him. And if they were asked about it, they're like, we don't know this person. We never did a podcast with him. And Willie was like, yes, I did a podcast with him. And I literally, before we became deadly enemies, where's your podcast at? Link it. He wouldn't do it. So I'm like, well, the Saskas must be telling the truth. He did do a podcast with him. I found it. It took me hours to dig that up. And I listened to it. I'm like, oh my God, this is absolutely horrible. No wonder they don't want it. But the fact that they didn't just come out and say, yeah, we did the podcast with him, dude's crazy. He just continued to stalk them, to hate on them. And I honestly feel if he were more mobile, if he were not 400, 500 pounds with bad feet and bad knees, he would be physically dangerous
Yeah, I do
because
too.
there's so much anger in him. And he did
Yeah,
a podcast where he basically kidnapped the Saskas, tied them to stakes, and was going to burn them alive. And he was giving this in deep detail. And of course, his co host came out the last minute and saved them. But I'm like, this is not the work of a sane human being. This is the work of a dangerous person. And he needs help. His family and friends, for whatever reason, have never got him help. And it's kind of like you may be crazy, but if you commit a crime, you still committed a crime. So,
right.
yeah.
Um,
So,
yeah. Well,
he's
I just
crazy.
want to say, I just. Oh, speaking of this, look at our good friend Eric here, the other Crusader.
Eric,
Right here. Eric is here. Uh, crazy as crazy does. So Eric is the other one of the half, like we mentioned before. He was, and I do, it's funny because I actually do consider you two guys, along with Billy Jack and whatnot. I do guys consider you guys. You guys are fucking heroes to me. And I've said this once before, and I'll say this again. Eric would be the last person I would want on my six as far as being a cyberbully. If you're a
Yeah.
cyberbully and Eric catches you doing it, he's the last one you want on your ass. He really is, because he will run your ass down like a lawnmower, and no
Yeah.
problem doing it. I've seen his work. Um, it's
Oh,
almost like you can tell that he's a father. That's really what it is. It's like he's a dad. He's got that dad drive. Like, well, shit. If you did that to that person, what's to stop you from doing that to my kid? So let me take care of you before that happened. And he does, and he did, and he will. Um, so I think cyberbullying sort of like it almost has gotten away a little bit. We talk about the school shootings and stuff like that. The red flags. We hear about those after the event. We need to hear about it more ahead of it. And I
well,
think with you and Eric, but that's what thing that you did. Like, you brought it to people's attention. Like, yeah, this guy's not exactly sane. He's not sane. He's dangerous. He convicted. He's been convicted of crimes, animal abuse, I believe.
yeah,
Uh,
which he
Yeah.
also denies, and he tries to blame other people. But that's from everything I've looked up, and I mean, I gave myself headaches at night looking this crap up. But yeah, that was a long time ago, and there are court records against him with his full initials, like William, middle initial, last name, and the dates fit and everything. So, yeah, like I said, if he were physically capable, I think he would be dangerous. And the thing
I,
that people
I
don't
think he
think
still is.
about cyberbullying is, okay, Willie doesn't have much of a following because he's
Oh
fucked
my
his own
God.
following up. But if you're going online and you're a author like he is, to whatever extent you want to claim he's an author, and you're telling people go out and hurt people, you could come across a crazy person who actually does. Now, I know some of the stuff he said to Eric. I know, to me, he threatened to behead me, pretending to be his niece. He basically hacked his niece's Facebook account and sent me a message threatening to kill me. And according to another mutual friend, he had basically told about 4 different people, sent them my old address when I lived in Mississippi, and said, go do what you need to do. You never know. I mean, yeah, he was crazy enough and his friends were not crazy enough. But when you do something like that, you're seriously putting someone's life at risk.
Mm.
And you're out there calling out people on your Facebook and page every day, on your YouTube every day. You never know when some crazy fucker is going to decide, oh my God, Willie says I should go kill this person. Let me go kill him. I mean, you never know. Ooh, do I have chat available to me? I don't. Hey, I
Um.
do.
Mhm.
I didn't know I had chat available.
Yeah, yeah, Echo. Yeah, I'm telling you, this is the craziest guy I've ever seen online, Echo, and I've been online since before 2000, and
Oh,
this is the craziest guy I've ever seen.
I forgot about
Um.
the cat in the dryer until I was just looking at the chat.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. So yeah, and the thing about it is though, is that he actually had like a 15-second claim to fame, and that is an interesting. That's another interesting story. And he actually, I don't know. It's just like someone who has like a 15-second window of fame. You would think that you would nurture it, and you would just like like improve on it, and everything else, but you're such a cruel and hurtful person, a hateful person, that nobody likes you and nobody respects you. And of course they're gonna shit on the stuff that you did,
Well,
because you're not a nice person. You're just not.
well, here's the
I mean,
thing. I've read his original Friday the 13th books. I've read 2 of them. They're not what I consider great literature. They're not good, but they're not horrible. They're readable, for
they're designed for young adults.
exactly. They're readable. And I've read the stuff he's written lately. It's absolutely horrible. It is not young adult. It's not it they're horrible. Not saying I'm a great writer. I do what I can, and it's flawed. I'll tell you right now. That's why you read it for free, because it's flawed. His stuff is absolutely horrible, and some of it, he uses a lot of symbolism that make me wonder about exactly how insane he is. But the story that he stole from the Saska sisters, Bob, which he renamed Robert Diablo. See, that's how much he changed it. He went from Bob to Robert Diablo. He stole the entire idea from them, but it is written horribly. He uses the names of everyone he doesn't like in the stories. He used the Saskas in the stories. I think he even called them Jen and Sylvia and just changed their last name. Uh, he used my friend Rebecca, who he hates on, as she was Nanny Herzberg. And all through the book, it's just him dropping names. And
Yeah.
I've read like 3 of his recent books, and they're all absolutely bloody horrible. They're always the same characters. Um, they're usually heavily, uh, the ideas are heavily stolen from other works. Like Bob was stolen from the Saska sisters. In Shadow Man versus the Undead, he basically uses Felicia Day as a character and tries to steal a lot of her personality from her gaming stuff that she does. He doesn't actually know her real personality, even though he wants her to be his girlfriend. I'm pretty sure uh,
Yes.
about that. But all of his stuff is Bob is plagiarized. The rest of it, if not plagiarized, is heavily, heavily lifted. I'm sure he would call it an homage, but it's not even an homage. It's just I don't know how to write, so let me steal this story from somebody else.
Yeah. It's just really yeah, it's one for the books. It truly is. It's one for the books. And like I said, if you guys want to know about it, just hit me up on Instagram, and I will drop you links, and you can go see some of this crazy stuff. And
Eric has great videos.
yeah, Eric is Eric. Yes, he's done a podcast, and in fact, I'll put the podcast link on this interview so you guys can go check it out, and I'll post it on Eric's interview as well. Um, yeah, and I think again, hands off to you guys for stepping up and looking out for everybody. Really what it is.
We're
Um,
like a
I mean,
super friend.
we've had, and we the community's like that though, right? I mean, I'd like to think that our
Well,
community is like that. Um,
I
we,
mean, I don't like this whole bullshit, and he's used threats to get everything he has now, which he doesn't have anything because his
no,
threats always pretty much backfire. But the Camp Crystal Lake Memories book that came out, they interviewed him for the book, and apparently while they were interviewing him, they decided this motherfucker crazy.
hmm
And he got a copy of the book, and there was nothing about him in it, and he lost it, and he went off on
I heard
the
that.
guy.
I heard that
Yeah,
video.
he went off to the point that they basically printed out a special edition for him that just said Eric had something to not our Eric here, but Willie. His pen name was Eric, which he stole and wanted. I mean, that's another great story about how he got his pen name. But basically, they did a special print of the book that just says Willie was also involved in writing a couple of books for Friday the 13th. And he only got that because he whined and yelled online, and I guess was it Richard Brake? Yeah, Peter Brake. Peter Brake. Yeah, he threatened him, and that's the only reason he got any mention because Peter realizes he's crazy, just like everyone dealing with him. And he had his podcast for a while, and he was actually interviewing people. The
Yeah.
interviews are all horrible, but still, he was able to get guests. And he ruined all of that himself. I mean, he would have never been whoever the top podcaster is in America, but if he had just kept his crazy in control, he could still have a podcast other than the one which I think he's even kicked his co-host Christopher off of his podcast. That was the last thing I heard was he got mad at him about something and kicked him off.
Who's Christopher?
Uh, Highland. Christopher Highland.
Christopher
Yeah,
Highland.
yeah, which they may have made up. I don't know, but I saw someone sent me where he had went on a huge rant about him and said he was now be doing his podcast alone. So I don't know if that's still the
I,
truth or not.
I just met that guy last week.
Chris is a nice guy.
He's a very nice man. What the hell is he doing with that other person? Christopher Highland, that guy can write. Have he? He sent me. He sent. Wow, that's a small ass world. Holy shit, that's a small ass world. I'm actually trying to get Christopher to come onto the show. I
Well,
read his synopsis about Poltergeist. Man, it's one of the best things I've read about. I was actually thinking damn, this guy. He reminded me of Kevin from Haunted by Horror, and I'm going
yeah,
like, man, this was really excellent.
I never talked to Christopher in any long extents, but I've replied to him on Facebook. He's replied to me, and it's always been very congenial. You know, it's because the first time I did it, I'm like, oh, he's gonna come hit me with some of that Willie hate, and he didn't. So I'm like, maybe he knows. Maybe he knows that Willie's crazy as fuck, and he just doesn't want to say it because he likes to be on the podcast.
Eric is coming in here about his podcast on Spotify called "The Extra Wide World of Willie."
Oh my
I
lord!
did not know. I did not know that those two guys were pals. I was just talking to him because I saw him. Because I always surf around. I saw his name on some Amazon stuff, and so I reached out to him. I'm going, hey, would you consider coming onto the show? And all of a sudden, I start talking to him, and all of a sudden, it's like, this guy's a super nice guy. He's really good. And then he says, and then he says, would you like to read my thoughts on Poltergeist? And I said, yeah, of course, And I read it, and I'm like, holy cow! But Christopher was a little bit down on himself, and I'm going like, why are you down on yourself? You're a hell of a writer. And not only that, but he likes Andrew Vax. He knows who Andrew Vax was, so he became like an instant friend for life with me.
Probably one of the reasons he's down is his association with Willie.
That is so. See, I don't. Yeah, wow. That obviously because I never listened to their podcast, I had no idea. That is crazy. Eric is sitting there saying, yeah, he removed Highland months ago, and then Eric says that, yeah. Go ahead, Eric, go ahead and drop your links to your podcast, man. You can grab it from Spotify and drop it down in here by all means. Yes. And then, wow, that is such a small world. Thank you, guys. Thank you too again for doing this, and for the other people in your guys' group that wow, that's crazy. I don't know. I mean, I put the invitation out to Christopher. I'm not sure if he'll take it, especially now that if he hears this, now he knows that I know you two guys. And I hope that doesn't mean anything to us, because it's like, I like him. I think he's very talented.
I do too, and I've tried to never. And of course, over the years of reacting and stuff, I know that there have been people who troll Christopher sometimes because he was involved with him. I never have. I'm not going to say I've never mentioned his name, because I thought but like I said, he's always been nice to me. So I
enjoyed my discussion. I was actually going to send him. I was going to ping him and send him a couple of interviews I just did, because he wants to be a screenwriter, and so he was screenwriting. That's a beast.
Dude, if you're watching this, Christopher, just keep writing. That's the best way.
You just got to keep going. It's like, some people, they do they've done it for years too. And I knew one writer who spent 10 years trying to get a character developed for TV into the movies, and he spent 10 years doing it, and it's an awesome character. It just never happened. But instead of being discouraged by it, he just, he absorbed it, shook it off, kept writing. And I would tell him that too.
There's a lot of luck involved. Although if you don't have some ability, that luck is never really going to take you much place. But like I've been writing since I was a kid, and it's always sucked. But I have good ideas, but my execution sucks. And then this week, I'm literally know one of the biggest names in horror directing and producing. At least read the title of my
Yeah.
script, and like I said, they basically is like do an 8 to 12 page treatment, and I've got no idea if he'll even. He didn't even say he would look at it, but he was like, "I need an 8 to 12 page treatment." So I'm like, okay, I got to do an 8 to 12 page treatment, and
Yeah.
probably
Uh,
never be even seen by him.
I,
But you know,
Yeah,
it's like,
I've talked to several, anybody who watched the show long enough knows that I've talked to a ton of screenwriters. In fact, I want to send Christopher some of that. I want to send him some screenwriters I've interviewed. Uh, Hopefully, that will encourage him to come onto the show because I like to know about his process. And uh, let's see. Eric is saying Willie won't do anything to your show. Well, yeah, well, of course not, because he knows who's here, and he knows who's got my back. So I know that he won't come this way. Yeah, sort of like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go fuck with that guy, and then you see his big brother, and you're going like, yeah, maybe not so much. So I'm not worried about it.
Willie couldn't even get out of his apartment to walk downtown if you were at the bus stop and tell you had a horrible show.
Well, it's really weird. It's like yeah, I found out that it's funny because it's like I lived in San Jose for 16 years before I moved here to Michigan, and San Mateo was maybe 30 minutes away from where I lived at.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, a threat wouldn't have done him that wouldn't have been a good idea.
Willie
Um,
probably, if you lived down the block from him, Willie probably could not make it down to your house without crapping on himself again.
yeah, you know what? Enough with the cyberbully. He's not worth it. I'd rather talk about some more positive things.
Let's talk
Definitely.
about some positive.
Yeah. So you got your screenplay up and running. Eric is also I what did you do for coming off your break, Eric? Eric is going to be coming off a break here. I know he's working with an American Werewolf in New Jersey. Mike, I know he's been hanging out with him, doing some pods. Um, Man, we're gonna have to come back here, Alan, for sure. You're gonna have to come back out and do some pods yourself.
I
Are
would
you thinking
love
about doing
to.
something
I
like
would
that?
love to. Like my main problem right now is work, and of course I work Monday through Thursday. So if you have a Friday night, hey, just give me a holler, and I'm here. The rest of the week is insane because I usually right
God,
now because we're short. Normally I go in and work at 8:30 at night my time, 8:30 Central, which is 9:30. But because we're short, they've got me coming in early. So now I leave my house at 7 Central to go to work by 7:30 Central. And that's it. That's my life right now is work. And I wake up in the evenings, I go drive for DoorDash.
oh my gosh.
Yep.
Oh, you like staying busy, that's for sure.
I normally do between 60 and 80 hours a week now, which is why I don't watch TV much. I don't watch movies much. And it's like I would literally be driving for DoorDash now, and I was gonna drive early before, but the town was kind of dead, and I'm like, let's just come home and relax before we do the interview. Because the
All
last
right,
interview I
yeah.
did, I was sitting in my car. Uh,
Okay. Well, I'm glad we got you for a home. We definitely want to have you come back. I want to thank you for coming out and hanging out with us, sharing about your writing and your your adventures. Totally enjoy talking to you, and yeah, I'm yeah, we're gonna do it again. We're gonna do it
let's
again.
do it again.
I appreciate for everything that you've done for everybody else, whether they know it or not. As far as putting their thumb, especially since this guy is considered a part of the horror community. So it's like who would ever have thought?
Oh,
There
yeah.
was another, but you know what? There are good people. Keep an eye on people. I mean, we had one person in our community who turned out to be a pedophile and was exposed, and everybody reacted the appropriate way, like fuck that guy.
Uh,
Um, you
Willie
know,
actually has a friend that he's written the forward in his book who was a convicted pedophile, and Willie actually put my name in the forward, calling me a troll and a basher. So my
Wow.
name has been published in a book by a
Wow, you're
convicted
famous.
pedophile who tried to. He set his parents' house on fire while they were asleep. And at one point, the police came to arrest him, and I'm not sure what for. And he basically got a rifle and took shots at the police coming to his house. And this person wrote a book about Friday the 13th.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm sure
Wow.
Eric knows who I'm talking about there.
Wow, that's crazy. I'll put all of Alan's links are down below. So you can go down there and give him a follow on Instagram. Please do that. And yeah. All right.
I will
Thank you
send
guys
you a
all in the
copy
chat
of.
for.
I'll
Yes, I
send
will
you a
get a
copy
copy
of
of that.
Under the Memphis Moon.
Before I go, let me read this off to you for next week. Our first week in May. Woo, our first week in May. We start off on Tuesday, the 2nd. We have YouTuber Matthew Woolard will be here, also known as Backlash Fisherman, and he will be here on Tuesday at 8 p.m. On Wednesday, the 3rd, we have actress Jackie Kelly will be with us at 8 p.m. On Thursday, we have actually he's doing his show as we are doing one here. He normally does his shows on Friday, but he's going to come out and hang with us on Thursday, and that will be Dave Wyatt, also known as Gino Presents, and he'll be here with us next Thursday at 8 o'clock. And next Friday, a week from today, our good friend Casey from Internet Kaiju, he'll be our special guest on Friday the 5th at 8 p.m. And then Saturday sees the return of the lovely Crystal Lowell from the Final Destination films, from Wrong Turn 2, from the several Hallmark movies, including the beautiful series Signed, Sealed, and Delivered. She will be here, and we'll be talking about her new short film called Afterglow, which I have seen, and I'm telling you right now, it is a mind blower. It's so fucking good. It is beautiful movie. And she will be here with us on Saturday the 6th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. That's on Saturday. It's a special show. So, and other shows that we got coming up, speaking of Catherine Wilhite, we have Miss Julie Michaels will be our special guest on May 22nd at 8 o'clock. Julie Michaels will be our special guest on that show. So we had Marshall Teague on last month, and then we have Miss Julie Michaels here this month. Who knows? We might have Catherine Willite on next month. We'll see.
You should send her an invite.
I definitely am planning to. I'm planning to. Now that I had Julie on, I definitely I do have a connection to Roadhouse. You guys do know that. The gentleman who played the bartender in that movie as a singer named John Doe. He played in a band called X. And I booked John Doe. Yes, 6 degrees of separation. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate your support. We will talk at you soon. Alan, stay right where you're at. Everybody else, thank you, and we'll see you. We'll see you Sunday. Peace.